This is the Andres Segovia Show.
Hey everyone, it's Andres, and I got to talk about the LA fires. This is my region. This is the place where I was born, I was raised in, where I do commerce, and believe me, it's really hurt. This has really hurt. But I could tell you that at the very least for my family, they're safe. The flames came within 2 blocks of their home, and I can't even fathom the pictures that I've seen of the areas that I recognize since my childhood, places that I used to visit, all gone, turned to ash. And I wanted to do a quick video. I hope it's quick to address a few things about what's going on, uh, the next crises that we are facing, and unfortunately, what might come next when certain groups in power will not let a good crisis go to waste. So, to address all that, I want to qualify myself a little bit because there's a lot of you new followers to me, recently introduced. I'd say I am a real estate broker, have been for several years in tandem with property manager. But before any of that, I spent at least half of my life working in construction. So I do all three now. Also, a investor myself. The place I was able to do all this really has been Los Angeles County, and it just really sucks to see all that's gone on. A lot of it preventable. And there are people that keep opining on things they don't know, and it's the internet. They'll do that. What you see on the screen here is from watchduty.org. They've been a massive help, honestly, in being able to get the word out. I was literally monitoring, and as soon as I knew these winds were coming, I'm like, oh my goodness, here we go again. And we're going to have the fires. This always happens. We go through this every single year. But because this time it's closer to important people structures, and suddenly everybody's talking about it, and the left says that it's climate change. Some on the right, not all of them, say it's direct energy weapons, weather modifications, and things like that. The thing is, if it's not this, it has to be that other thing. It drives me crazy because they all missed the mark and no solutions ever provided to address this. We've been dealing with this, especially under this administration, the Newsom administration, for a very long time. Where were any of you when the Park Fire happened last year? Do any of you know that name? I'll touch on that in a bit. But highlighting this, the one to the left that you see on the screen, there's the Palisades Fire. Uh, the one that I know most my family and friends that were very close to was the Eaton Fire. And both of those are massive. And according to, let me start sharing this other clip. This is from Cal Fire. The latest updates as of I record this, the Palisades Fire is about 17% contained. It's burned over 23,000 acres. And the Eaton Fire has burned over 14,000 acres, and it's at 35% contained. There are numerous other wildfires. You probably noticed that there's right here, it says 135 wildfires. Yes, some of them have been turned off. Others are recently sparked, because we're still dealing with very windy conditions. My most popular real estate segment on my show is Local Broker Reacts. It's a segment I tend to have fun with whenever I can, but I tend to react to news that involve real estate. And in one of those, I believe it was the video where the Daily Wire announced that they were moving over to Nashville, Tennessee. And in that one, I got in trouble by certain people because I shared news that over 80% of wildfires in that particular year, for example, were caused by arson. But intentional or unintentional, arson is still the same. Okay. And that matters. So that was then. And people on the left got upset at me and were reporting my channel for false information and flagging all this other stuff. It didn't hold. I cited sources. I was showing them on the screen like I am now. Now it's kind of the opposite, where the pendulum has swung the other way, where I had to address certain groups that were covering the news, and I appreciate them, by the way. And I know it's been a running theme in the news, but when a suspect was apprehended by citizens in connection to one of the fires called the Kenneth Fire, which I believe is 100% contained, and the police took him into custody later after the citizens held him in a citizen's arrest, then people were making a lot of assumptions about this, because this individual did turn out to be an illegal immigrant. He was caught with a blowtorch. But the thing is, he was never brought up on arson charges because there was no proof that he actually committed any form of arson. However, he was still being held without bail, if I understand, under arrest for parole violation and other crimes. He had a rap sheet apparently. But early on, when this story broke, I responded to Breaking 911 with this post. I know it's a recurring theme in the news cycle, but arsonists come in all shapes and sizes here in California. Ronnie Dean Stout, the second, started the biggest fire last year. Up until that point, everything I said was right. And because I put a comment, technically you can't edit a comment, so I added it as a follow-up. I meant the Park Fire. Either way, both things caused a ruckus. I had a bunch of people on the left coming, on the right coming at me. First, they were coming at me because I wasn't agreeing with them about the direct energy weapons and weather modifications. But then this one caused a stir because, well, look, this doesn't look like the ones that they were trying to blame over here with respects to blanket cover that this is migrant crime run rampant. Anyway, the thing is, it was the Park Fire. And what is the Park Fire? The Park Fire is this one. Some of the criticisms that I was getting is like, well, don't judge him because a campfire got out of control. I was like, look, I'm sorry. It wasn't the campfire. It was the Park Fire. The Park Fire burned 429,000 acres. For those of you that follow me along long enough, you would know that every now and then I'll tell you, support my affiliates. Go get your coffee at rigidcandycoffee.com. Use my promo code Deandre Segovia and save on shipping, which you still can. The owner of Ranger Candy Coffee, his in-laws lost everything in that fire. Okay. It was started by Ronnie pushing a car on fire into a ravine. So he was held without bail and brought on arson charges, intentional or not. The point is, this was started by arson. There was Butte County, North California. Thank God there weren't that many casualties. I believe no fatalities at all. 709 fires, 709 structures destroyed, and this fire started in July, right here. Date started July 24, 2024. I believe it burned out at the end of September or early October. That's at least 2 months. Okay. These fires can go on and on, especially if they're burning in the forest and stuff. Okay. The fire that I cited erroneously, but still massive, was the campfire. So when people said, oh, don't judge this guy because the campfire got a control out of him, that's not what the campfire was. The campfire. This was started on November 8th, 2018. It burned, I don't know how long it burned for, but the cause was a down power line by a utility company called PG&E. It had a huge effect. This was right before Gavin Newsom was elected, or around the time he was elected, actually, but he didn't come into office until the following year. This one was huge, okay? There were 85 people killed, over 18,800 structures destroyed. That's massive. So let me go back over to what's been happening currently with the Palisades fire and the Eon fire. The 135 wildfires, at least 23 dead. This is pending confirmation. The Palisades fire has burned 23,000 acres. Let's see how many structures they report. There's still evacuations going on as of this recording, by the way. But let me see if they have a tally of the buildings destroyed, because the last number I saw, 12,000, and this is combined, by the way. It's not just like one fire destroying all that. This is just happens to be multiple fires happening all at once that's causing all this damage. And unfortunately, it's the rebuilding that's going to take some time. And for that's why Governor Gavin Newsom signed in the executive order to supposedly help Los Angeles rebuild faster and stronger, because in 2028 it's going to host the Olympics. Before I get into that, though, one of the big hurdles that needs to be crossed is the insurance. Some insurance policies, because this happened at the beginning of the year, were canceled. Some people did not have insurance, at least not able to renew or replace it. The insurance companies, and I hate that I'm even having to defend the insurance companies a little bit here. Back on July 31st, 2023, I was invited to a briefing by the Insurance Commissioner of California, because as a real estate professional, I was invited to sit and ask questions, to be briefed on the insurance situation. And I saw in real time what was gaslighting, quite literally. I deal with insurance companies regularly, okay? My insurance companies, for my business, for my properties. I signed those checks, and I was being told in this briefing that what I was experiencing was not the case. You can still find that webinar buried somewhere in the Office of the Commissioner's website. But that's why I ended up live streaming myself to record this as it went, because I expected this to happen. And I've been warning about the brewing insurance crises so we can, coalesce, come together, and respond to the lies that were being perpetuated about this very thing. And now we find ourselves in this situation. I even spoke against what was called Proposition 19. Proposition 19 was supposed to provide more funds for fire prevention. None of that has ever happened. This is why people that on the right that have been arguing for due or weather modification, you're giving an out to the policies that have led to every single year. The leadership here doubles down on it, doesn't improve, makes matters worse, then this happens. That's what everybody's expecting. Will Karen Bass resign as the mayorship? No, she's not. Will Gavin Newsom resign? No, he won't. And everybody in between. Will anybody be held accountable for what just transpired? Well, who's the one that should be held accountable? Is it the leadership or the people that voted for the same leadership over and over and over again, doubling down on it? And then we ended up with all this. I really hope that this is a wake-up call for a lot of people that have bought into the lies that we have to do this in the name of climate change. And what did they do? Is to not do anything. Empty out some reservoirs. Some of the other ones need to be shut down for repairs. But the media is trying to run and say, no, there was water there. But would it have made a difference? The rebuilding part is what's going to give some, credence to that this was planned. Conservatives have a bad habit of reacting to news instead of working on prevention. That's one of the things that frustrates me about any of our movements. Whenever the culture does something, conservatives respond. They won't make culture. They'll complain about culture. And then they claim to be the counterculture because they're going against it. It's like, wait, but you didn't do anything. Regardless of my issues with Daily Wire, and believe me, there's a ton of them, at least they were trying to create some kind of culture. Same thing with Angel Studios. And instead of the right maybe uniting around that, everybody's poking for reasons not to unite around that. So again, conservatives are reactionary. So what we're seeing here, and people commenting about things they know nothing about, is the reaction to decades worth of failed EPA and other policies that have led to this point. So they say, oh, DEI and wokeness are destroying. Yes, that's the tail end of it. Why talk about decades before any of that was even put in place? This is nothing new. We had bigger fires than this. Where were your arguments then? They didn't exist. But here is where people are going to be really talking. This is an initiative that Los Angeles put forth back on December 2020. It's called the Smart LA 2028. They wanted to do this in time for the Olympics, trying to create turn LA into a smart city. The reason turning LA into a smart city is so difficult is because there's so many old buildings. When you see a bunch of these new constructions of apartments, yeah, that's the new stuff. They're already built in with the latest in tech because reasons, but not the old stuff. A lot of the old stuff you cannot retrofit. The only way is for it to be gone. And now, Democrats are not going to let a good crisis go to waste. They're going to take advantage of this. They want to implement the Smart LA thing. Did you know that LA is an experiment that maybe by 2030, private car ownership will no longer be a thing because you will own nothing and be happy? If that sounds familiar, then you know what I'm talking about. Yes, that is a thing happening in Los Angeles, and Smart LA is part of it. There's a reason they've been removing more and more and more parking and really pushing EV and are going to push all these different policies that control congestion in the name of reducing more vehicles, but allowing for, say, Uber, Lyft, and other stuff like that to operate. And when people are traveling through scooters and trying to make 15-minute cities, this is an opportunity for them to create something. So how many private equity firms that buy into DEI are going to be coming in, swooping in to buy up some of the land? It's yet to be seen, but this is one of the reasons people are going to be talking. This PDF is the one that lays it out for everybody to understand. Smart City of Los Angeles Smart LA 2020 Technology for a Better Los Angeles, December 2020. I have talked about this. You want to know more about my takes, you got to go to Instagram because there's a lot of information and it changes on the daily. But this one I'll be monitoring very, very closely because there's no doubt this is what they're trying to do with all these new building codes and requirements. It only makes sense that this is going to happen. And with the elimination of certain zonings, because single family zoning is racist, they're going to urbanize suburban areas. That's what was the intention all along. And so you can argue that that was one part of the plan. And while the left and the right are the same, the rational ones, we all agree for once. This was man-made. And LA could turn into a smart prison. That's what I wanted to share. Show notes will be available at theandresegovia.com. Thank you for watching. Pray for LA. And, well, I'll see you in the next one.